If you're curious to make the next step for your own path but don't really know where to begin, then take the Sacred Travel quiz and reveal how your soul travels and which places hold the clues for your deep soul remembrance. You'll find the link in the show notes. Welcome, Sacred Travel friends. Today's episode takes us into the enchanted, wild, and healing sanctuary of Poros, an island steeped in mysticism, legends, and Greek philosophy and healing in the Mediterranean Sea. My guest is Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗏, PhD. He's a therapeutic mentor, pilgrimage guide, educator, and poet. He guides transformational growth by restoring our connections with the numinous. An international thought leader in cultural and war trauma healing and psycho-spiritual development, he restores ancient spiritual and holistic practices for modern seekers. He's the author of The Practice of Dream Healing, Soul Medicine, and 6 other books. Welcome, Ed. I am super intrigued to have you today.
Hi, Julia. Welcome to you, and thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to share this conversation with you.
I am honored to have you. You know, I was just sharing with you before we hit record that I have had this obsession with Greece myself ever since I was a little kid. So, yeah, when you reached out to come on the show, I was really intrigued, and specifically also because we are talking about an island that I haven't been to. And I'm, yeah, really, really interested in learning more about that. So let's start off with maybe sharing a little bit about how you actually came to discover Poros.
Sure, I'm happy to share that. First, I want to connect with you over both of us having fascination with ancient Greece since we were little kids, and children do. My son's partner is Australian, so that family lives in Melbourne, Australia. We have 2 half kangaroo granddaughters, but they're 3 and 5, and I'm beginning this way for what we shared. Uh, we met on Poros last winter. So I had my 3-year-old and my 5
Wow.
daughters there. They wouldn't stop asking. For our listeners don't know yet, the island of Poros was sacred to this god of healing, the god of the sea, Poseidon, and it was actually as important as the Acropolis in Athens or Apollo's temples at Delphi. It was the largest sanctuary to the sea god in the entire Mediterranean world. That's not there anymore. There's just foundation ruins, so people don't know it. Even people on the island don't know how important it was.
Mm.
About falling in love with Greece when we were little children. My little granddaughters fell in love with the island within hours, I would say. They were calling it the Magic Island. They were
Aw.
asking for Poseidon stories, and now we visit by Zoom because they're on the other side of the world. But just about every time we're on Zoom, one or the other says, "Grandpa," they call me Papu, which is grandfather in Greek. Papu, tell us a Poseidon story. Tell us a magic island. So there are magical ingredients about the Greek tradition, especially Greek mythology, that everybody loves and falls in love with. And for most Westerners, because we don't think of it as religion, the way we practice religion, it's free of whatever wounds, traumas, disappointments, rules and restrictions people have in thinking about religion. And so we're free to interact with those deities and their stories in a much more open and liberated way than we are with our most religions of origin. So that's one matter. Second, okay, I want to interview you too about how and when you fell in love with Greece and where did you travel? Maybe we'll do that sometime. But like you, I fell in love with Greece when I was a child. I grew up in New York City, and back then on our 10th birthday, we could get adult library cards. So after school on my 10th birthday, I galloped to the library and I got my library card. And I had been in the adult section many times, but this was the first time I could take a book back. So I was wandering the stacks, wondering who's going to be the first one to come home with me? And I was in between two floor-to-ceiling stacks. And Scouts Honor, I don't know how it happened. The gods were there. A book fell off one of the highest shelves. I couldn't even reach it. It fell right into my hands, and it was a beautiful, large, leather-bound, red leather-bound hardcover edition of the Iliad.
Mm.
And I just looked at it, and I started to leaf through it, and I was in wonder, and I don't know who you are or what you're about or how you fell into my arms, but we're going home together. So
Obviously, yes.
at 10 years old, I devoured the Iliad, and I fell in love with the Greek tradition and began studying it ever since then. So it's really been, like you, a lifelong, profound love and calling from my soul to explore that tradition. Right. So that eventually got me to Greece and the Greek tradition. How did I get to the island of Poros? Uh, Really, literally, a dead poet got me there. Right. He's not very well known in this country, but there was a Greek poet named 𝗂𝗶𝗲𝗶𝗲. He's the first modern Greek writer to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. He won it in 1963. Of course, his poetry and writing is well known in Greece and in Europe, not very well known here. I was with my family on a vacation in Gloucester, Cape Ann, Massachusetts. So we're at the ocean, and in a used bookstore, I found a volume of 𝗂𝗶𝗲𝗶𝗲's poetry, and I didn't know him at the time. I was about 33 at the time. So I bought the book. We were sitting by the ocean. I was sitting underneath the bronze statue of the fisherman that's at Gloucester. It's a very beautiful bronze, gazes out to the sea. It's a memorial to all the sailors who've been lost for over 300 years there. And it reminds me of Greek bronzes. Anyway, I'm sitting under there with the book, and then it was a still day, but then a sea breeze suddenly opened up and blew the pages, and they stopped at a magnificent poem that I read there, and I fell in love with that poem and with that poet, and I said, "I need to read everything this man has written." So I began studying his poetry, and he got me to Poros because he used to Poros was his writing retreat and his sanctuary. 𝗂𝗶𝗲𝗶𝗲, he was part of the Greek government in exile during World War II. And then after the war, and he came back to Greece during the Greek Civil War, which was 2 years right after World War II. He lived on Poros, and it was his writing retreat and his sanctuary to be safe during the Civil War, which was horrible. And the Greek people say it was even worse than the World War II and the Nazi occupation for them. So 𝗂𝗶𝗲𝗶𝗲 wrote on Poros. He wrote about Poros and about, of course, other Greek things. But so where are we? So 2 years after I met his poetry and I read him and studied him, I was translating some of it, and I decided I want to go to Poros. I need to go to Poros and be where he wrote his poetry. And so I saved the last piece of translation work for my 1987 journey to Greece, which was a solo pilgrimage. And I had a lot of spiritual breakthroughs during that trip, including on Poros. But that's why I went to Poros and how I got there. And so the scene behind me is from the mountaintop sanctuary of Poseidon on Poros. And that's where I went. That's where I carried my last pages of poetry to translate. I saved This is the mountaintop of Poros. Poros is a small volcanic island, only about a few thousand people live there full time. Just one harbor village, and then the mountaintop, a lot of farms and olive orchards and pine groves on the way up. It takes it took me, I don't know, about 3 hours to climb up because I was young then and I hiked it. Better. Our feet are on Mother Earth, of course.
Before we continue our journey, I want to invite you to take the next step beyond simply listening. If you've been around here on this podcast for a while, you know that the places that call us are never just destinations. They awaken us, activate soul codes, and help us remember energetic gifts coming online. And Seven Gates of Remembrance is your invitation to experience that for yourself. A mini virtual pilgrimage through 7 of the Earth's most energetic gateways, awakening your ancient body technology, activating the light that you already carry within, and deepening the oracle within you so you can remember not only who you are, but the vision you are here to steward in these times of change. It's only 33 Swiss francs and you'll get instant access and can step through the gates right away. If this is your call, then let's remember together and journey through the 7 gates of remembrance. You'll find the link in the show notes.
And not only did I get to the sanctuary and did I continue working on 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗲 poetry, but we'll dive right into the really delicious stuff. When I got to the top of the mountain and I saw the sanctuary opening maybe 50 feet in front of me. Okay, I'm on a mountain top that took me 3 hours to climb. And what should come crawling out of the sanctuary entry on its big flippers but a giant sea turtle?
Oh, wow. No way.
Yeah, we say no way, but it happened. A real sea turtle on a mountaintop.
Wow.
It crawled up to me. I stopped in the middle of the trail and sat down in front of it, and we stared into each other's eyes for about an hour. And I was I hope the turtle was transformed also, but I and in the shamanic tradition, not just the Greek tradition, but worldwide shamanism, we're taught, of course, that we have animal spirits, that the divinities have animal spirits and messengers, and that when we encounter them, we can experience miracles, which are technically defined as events that seem to break the laws of nature. A turtle on a mountaintop breaks the laws of nature.
I
How
would definitely say that qualifies for it.
And I felt an energy transfer. I felt turtle somehow pouring its spirit or its life energy into me and teaching me and inspiring me. And then after about an hour, it started to head down the mountain, and I went here into the sanctuary under these pine trees, and I just sat and meditated and prayed and gave thanks and asked, what has just happened? And there's many, many ways that was my first visit to Poros. So I've been traveling there since then, since 1987. And that visit, not just 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗲 poetry in the island, but that encounter with turtle and the turtle spirit and all that means literally changed my life in many, many, many ways. Briefly, so will expand to everything. One matter is that astrologically, I'm a Taurus, a bull.
Mhm.
My birthday a couple of weeks ago. The turtle spirit, it has all of the attributes for balancing the bull spirit. And one of the
Oh.
spiritual lessons is that the energies and the spirits we receive from the cosmos do come to balance us and complete us. And so the turtle has been working hard to balance my bull spirit for a long time. And they're both spirits for me. Secondly, this was the sanctuary of Poseidon, the most important sanctuary of the sea god in the ancient world. Well, what do you know? Both the bull and the turtle were the spirit animals of Poseidon.
Of course.
Of course, of course. So I get that. And a third matter is that was life changing is I don't exclusively, but as you mentioned, I specialize in working with military and veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder and moral injury. And we, in our conventional and mainstream mental health, we absolutely don't know the right way to help them or bring them home or heal PTSD. So I was in Greece because I've studied the ancient warrior tradition since I read the Iliad at 10 years old. And I was in Greece studying the warrior tradition, asking, since war was so common in the ancient world, they weren't all broken from PTSD. They were exceedingly functional, creative, intelligent, spiritual people. How did they heal their warriors? So that trip in 1987 was specifically asking that question and studying the ancient warrior tradition. And I had a lot of breakthrough experiences about that. But regarding turtle, I hope our friends watching today know that in the Native American tradition, excuse me, it's the remnants of the flu. In the Native American tradition, our continent, North America, is called Turtle Island. And their creation story is that Great Spirit, the universe was empty except for the waters, made a giant turtle to come up from the bottom of the waters. And we who live on North America are actually living on Great Turtle's back. What does that have to do with my work? Well, I came from the United States of America to learn what the Greeks had to teach about war trauma healing. Turtle said, "Don't go back to the United States, go back to Turtle Island and learn and study with the Native American elders and teachers," because they were also warrior cultures who had profound spiritual and ritualistic means for healing their warriors. And so I continue to go to Greece and study that, and I lead warrior journeys to Greece, as well as for everybody. But I also really listened to Turtle, and way back then, so that was 1987. I spent a couple of years traveling all over Turtle Island looking for a teacher, and I began studying with Native American elders, and I did a 13-year apprenticeship in Native American healing practices and used them with our warriors as well. So that's a very long story about how did I get to Poros, the magic that happened, the book falling off a shelf into my arms or pushed by a god, turtle on a mountaintop, the synchronicities about we live on Turtle Island and I'm a Taurus and it's all balancing. The amount of wisdom and spiritual balancing and health and guidance that was returned to me in studying this tradition and traveling to Poros and even from the first journey is immense and life shaping. And so it is for me and it can be for all of us.
I'm just in awe listening, and thank you so much for sharing that. And one thing that you couldn't know is that I had a significant turtle encounter on another Greek island, which I still haven't fully decoded yet. And you have definitely given me some clues about that now. So thank you so much for sharing that story. This is what I love about these conversations and how spirit weaves. Like we are all these sacred mirrors and messengers for each other. So thank you. We haven't talked about that before.
Oh, no, well, which island did you meet your turtle on?
It was two islands actually. It was Kefalonia and Zakynthos.
Zakynthos, yeah.
Yeah.
They love Zakynthos. I don't know about Kefalonia, but Zakynthos is one of the places they commonly, congregate. I've also encountered turtles on other islands as well, so they're there and they're healthy, and there is efforts among the Greeks to practice turtle protection and conservation, so that's cool.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
especially meeting them where they don't usually congregate, is I talked to naturalists in Greece that said, "They don't come to Poros, they're not in Sora." Well, guess
Well,
what?
they
They are.
do.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Uh,
So beyond your personal encounters, which of course now that there have been many, and also you guiding people, I bet that there is a lot of stories that you can tell, like bearing witness. What would you say, specifically as Poros is one of the lesser known islands, what is the sacred site medicine that people can encounter when they immerse themselves in that sacred sanctuary?
mhm. Okay, well, even the use of the word sanctuary for Poros is accurate. In Greek, the word for sanctuary is asileia. So in English, we get the word asylum from asileia. And sanctuary or asylum was and should still be a place of inviolable safety. We are absolutely safe. There's no violence allowed. We used to have sanctuary uh, churches and mosques and synagogues used to be able to offer sanctuary, and unfortunately, with modern politics, that's been broken. But a place where we can go, where we are absolutely safe, where there's no violence, where we're deeply, fully accepted and supported, and we're given healing, and most importantly, we can achieve a sacred connection. So Poros and the sanctuary of Poseidon has been that for over 3,000 years. It and so one matter is we are really safe in a place that has been maintaining profound and deep welcoming of the guest and the stranger and giving love and support and welcome. The Greeks, you know this, but our friends listening would benefit from knowing we have the word xenophobia, and that's a part of our culture to fear the stranger, to fear the other, to fear people who are different. And oh my God, are we xenophobic now? Expelling people with the slightest difference as if they're
Yeah.
dangers. Okay. Greece, the word xenophobia comes from Greek. Xenos means stranger or outsider, and phobos is phobia, fear. So it's a Greek word. Well, the Greek has the opposite word that we don't have in English, philoxenia. You know it because we receive it when we get there. Philoxenia is friendship to the stranger. Make the stranger your guest friend. Throw open your hospitality. And this appears in the mythology of the world too. In Greek mythology, there was, I forget their name, Zeus and Hermes came down and tested an elderly couple to see if they were really, really generous. So they were dressed as poor beggars, and the elderly poor couple gave them everything, their food, their bed, their fire. The Bible has stories like that also as well. There's this time when the angels came and tested Abraham in the same way. Iroquois mythology has the same story of the creator coming down disguised as a poor, desperate, homeless person going to all of the clans of the Iroquois nation. And they all rejected creator except the Bear Clan, who were the poorest, the neediest of all the clans. But because of that, they had compassion and they took him in and they gifted creator. And so they became the healing clan of the Iroquois people. So this practice of welcoming the stranger and making them into one of your own, really making relations, becoming extended family by choice is true, and it's active around the world in traditional cultures. And it's especially true on Poros. And even travelers say, I've been to many, many different islands, but Poros is the warmest, friendliest, most welcoming of them all. So that's another thing we can get is a real deep belonging. My friends and colleagues on Poros say, you're not an American, you're a local. You know how good that feels. So what else can we get? This is about all sacred travel and what you're practicing and teaching people that when we go on pilgrimage, we're not just tourists. We're not looking from a distance. We are pilgrims seeking deep, deep connection and looking for those synchronistic experiences like turtles and others, and watching for dreams and big dreams and other synchronistic events and following the synchronicities like they're clues, they're road markers on our path. So instead of just being logical and rational, watch for what the universe delivers and watch for the clues. And the Greek tradition has been delivering non rational, associational, archetypal clues for thousands of years. And it still is very healthy and active and delivering non normative spiritual messages. So, anywhere in Greece, we can achieve that. But for me, especially on Poros. So, all of these are some of the gifts that we get from this. Let's also say this about Poseidon, the god of the sea. He's not very well understood because most of the mythology people know is from the Iliad, from Homer. And oh, he was a really fierce, angry god who tried to destroy Odysseus, and he had children like the Cyclops, and he wasn't a friendly guy. Well, that's not the complete portrait of Poseidon at all. He's a much older god. He was likely not Zeus, but Poseidon was the king god 1,000 years earlier than Zeus in the Mycenaean era. And he was also a protector and a benefactor and a savior, as well as the fierce god of storms and earthquakes that we know. The Homeric hymn to Poseidon is very beautiful. I'll recite it. Would you like me to recite it now?
Please, yes, please.
It's really beautiful, and it teaches us of the positive dimensions of Poseidon, which we can experience when we study his myths and when we go to this island or other sacred places to Poseidon. So it's my translation of the Homeric hymn, dates to
Mhm.
about 800 BCE. Okay. O Poseidon, great God, invisible, earth embracing, see, not earth shaking, earth embracing, ever turning like the waters, founder, protector, lord of the deep and true. Your task is double, earth shaker honored by the gods, to be savior of ships and tamer of horses. So be kind hearted to us, great invisible one. Be kind hearted to all of us who sail your wide waters. There's, yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
There are so many lessons in there. Founder and protector is that. I love this. All of us who are healers seek to be Lord of the deep and true. And that's why we travel to sacred places, to go as deep as we can into the sacred traditions and to discover grounding truths about life, not the casual everyday things that disappear, that fade, but the ultimate dimensions. And so Greek philosophy taught and sought the ultimate, the archetypal, and we can go there and seek those. Okay, we also hear tamer of horses. The horse was also
Mhm.
one of Poseidon's spirits. And originally, Greece only had small, like miniature horses, and they actually came from Northern Europe. The full size horses that could pull chariots and work in the fields and use as war horses. And Poseidon brought them from Northern Europe and gave them as gifts. So he's not a wild horse, he's a tamer of horses. He tames the wildness so that we can use it for the benefit of civilization. And and savior of ships. Well, we know the story of him trying to sink Odysseus coming back from the
Yeah.
Trojan, but no, he also saved ships. And sailors always had altars to and images of Poseidon on the ships in the ancient world. Now, Christianity has taken the Poseidon archetype, and what do you know? It's Saint Nicholas, the protector of sailors. All Greek ships today have little altars and chapels to Saint Nicholas on the ship. And it's just the same archetype of the god of the sea translated and transferred into Christian iconography. So Poseidon is alive and well, but he's disguised as a Christian saint now. And
Mm,
we access all of these energies and experience them on Poros.
that was beautiful. Thank you. You also touched on dreaming. And, I've had like on some islands, but Kos obviously as like the birthplace of Asclepius, where one of the most ancient Asclepians is still standing and you can visit it, where I connected with this technology, I want to say almost. And for me, like dreams or oracular dreaming has always been a big part of pilgrimage before and after. And I wonder what you can share about this specifically also with your trips to Poros for yourself, and maybe also if this is something that you incorporate in the pilgrimage when you guide others.
Yes, I certainly do. And thank you for inviting me to talk about that part of the ancient Greek work. So the two gods are the two Greek deities I work with the most, though I honor and respect them all, are Poseidon, as we're talking about, and also Asclepius, the Greek god of healing. And specifically, Asclepius brought healing dreams to people. So you're referencing one of the Asclepian sanctuaries. There were over 320 Asclepian sanctuaries that we know of in the ancient Mediterranean world, and not just in Greece, but they stretched from Egypt. Well, you love Egypt and you've been there, and they did dream incubation in Egypt, and it stretched all the way to Spain and Portugal to the Iberian Peninsula, and then into the Caucasus Mountains in Europe,
Wow.
and then down to the northern coast of Africa. So what the Greeks called dream incubation was the key for healing, and it was under the god of healing, Asclepius. The same trip that I was introduced to Poseidon and Turtle on the mountaintop, a few days before that, I was at Epidaurus, the major healing sanctuary of Asclepius. That may have been the one you were referring to. And there is a huge ancient theater there that seats 14,000 people, and it's still in use today. And every summer there's a ancient theater festival there. So just a few days before I met Turtle on the mountaintop, I went to Epidaurus for the opening of that summer's uh, ancient theater festival. What was in performance was the Trojan women, Tirades, by Euripides.
Mm.
That's probably the greatest anti-war play ever written. And Euripides had been a general in the Athenian army. He knew what he was writing about. Imagine American generals writing anti-war plays about the things that
Mm.
we do, but the
Yeah.
Greeks knew better. All right. So I went to Epidaurus and I saw Trojan women, and I had profound cathartic experience of my own. That was 1987. So at that time, I had been working with veterans, well, since the end of the Vietnam War, so 10 or 12 years by that time. And I had so many feelings and memories, and I had some nightmares of war, and I was learning how to do the healing work. And as I said, I went to Greece to learn how they did. Well, seeing the Trojan women in performance in the Asclepian sanctuary, why is there a theater in a healing sanctuary? What's the relationship between theater and holistic healing? How did they use theater in the ancient world? Oh, what do you know? Almost every Asclepian sanctuary all over the ancient world had theaters, and they performed the tragedies there. And the main playwrights were veterans, and every man of the time was a veteran and had served. And the ancient tragedies were communal healing rituals for everyone to experience their grief and their pain and achieve catharsis from the toxic emotions that they were carrying from war and violence. And the Greeks did this for hundreds, thousands of years, and we could do that today. So I learned that, and I had to ask, well, what else happened at Epidaurus? It was the major healing sanctuary of Asclepius. So it, for our listeners, it was a holistic healing sanctuary, and our modern sanctuaries are partially modeled on them. So somebody can go to Omega Institute or Esalen Institute, places like that, where they're offering many different holistic modalities. Well, the Greeks did that, except when you went to a sanctuary, they were free. You only gave a gift when you left for your healing. Everybody was welcome, so men and women, emperors and slaves. So an emperor might give a new building for dream healing, but a slave would give an apple because that's all they had. And in the divine eyes, all those gifts are worthy. And maybe the slave is even giving more than the emperor. It costs the slave. The emperor doesn't feel it. We need to remember that. And healing was free for everyone, and that's what we should be doing with a healthcare system, of course. And all of the holistic modalities. So there was theater, there was poetry recitations, there was astrology, nutrition, gymnastics, psychotherapy, dream interpretation, therapeutic touch, all of the modalities that we have forms of those. At hydrotherapy, always people stayed and received all the modalities, not just one. If I go to Omega Institute, I'm signing up for a meditation workshop, and it's expensive. If I go to a Poros, I'm getting meditation and all the other modalities, and I'm getting them all, and I don't have, and they're given to me out of love and generosity for my healing. So we get that, and the core healing practice was what the Greeks called dream incubation, which was after you received holistic practices for the days or weeks or whatever it took to get you back in balance. Then you watched for dreams or visions or other signs that called you into the Asclepian temple for dream incubation. And dream incubation was, we could think of it as similar to Native American vision questing, basically going on a dream quest. In the earlier times, in the origins of Asclepian healing, which were up in Thessaly, like 1500 BC, when we have the first records, they happened in the wilderness and people slept in caves. And later, as the Greek world developed and the beautiful classical sanctuaries were built, that's when large Asclepian sanctuaries in the classical style were built. It was always a separate, there's always a temple to Asclepius, and there was always building called the abaton, which means the place not to be trespassed. Nothing like the Holy of Holies, the Sanctuary of Sanctuaries, nothing evil, nothing dangerous is allowed in, and it's used only exclusively for dream questing. So people would be led with ritual into the abaton, and they would sleep there on a couch that was called a klinikos. So our word clinic comes from the tradition, and they just lay on the couch fasting and praying and dreaming and sleeping and waiting for a dream or a vision in which either the god of healing Asclepius or one of his three daughters, who were all healing deities, or one of his spirit animals, the snake, the rooster, the cock, or the dog, but especially the snake, came to people in their dreams and visions and either healed them in the dream or told them in the dream the prescription they need to heal themselves.
Mm.
So we have well over 1,000 testimonies from the ancient world of these healings, and they were carved into the temples so people could read them and set their expectations. This was something like this is going to happen to me when I'm in the sanctuary. So since I learned about this in 1987. I studied it for a number of years. And then in 1995, I began leading pilgrimages to Greece myself. And I've included dream incubation as one of the practices we do ever since then. So by now, this is 26. So I've been doing this over 30 years. And each time, so I've led 25 pilgrimages to Greece, and we do dream incubation every time, and people really do have exceedingly deep, strong dreams and visions, and often achieve catharsis, release of those toxic emotions. And people really do get, well, in the Jungian tradition, Carl Jung differentiated between what he called little dreams and big dreams. And he learned those terms actually from Labrador Indians. The little dreams are the everyday dreams we have that are about our personal lives and our personal unconscious. The big dreams that only happen rarely are when the gods and the goddesses, the spiritual powers, the archetypes come to us. And in the dream, transform us and give us life direction and guidance for how we can continue to spiritually evolve and heal. And so I have incubated myself many times, and on every journey to Greece, I incubate some of my travelers, those who are called to incubation or who have big healing needs or who receive dreams or other signs that tell them they are called to incubate. And I have 3 books on this subject. Passage to Poros that we're talking about today has a chapter or 2 on dream incubation on Poros and on my practices of how I combine Poseidon and Asclepius into one kind of unified god power. Also, information on, as I shared, sometimes I lead warrior journeys to Greece, sometimes exclusively warrior journeys, and we use the Greek warrior tradition and these spiritual practices. I can testify that some of the veterans that I've taken who have had severe PTSD have been through Greek sacred practices and incubation, and Scouts honor their PTSD was healed. I'm thinking of one veteran who had been through therapy and had tried every technique he could to heal his PTSD, and he was functional, he was doing okay, but he said the light was still out inside. He had 2 divorces, his children were alienated, he was living in darkness. We went to Greece together. 2 days of ritual for him. One in Athens when there's a warrior cemetery in Athens called Keramikos. Not very far from the Acropolis, but not too many people go there. You probably know it. But it's an old warrior cemetery, and the ancient city walls are there. And we went to that one day in Athens. We went there first. When we got there, the man's first name was John. He said, "I can't go in there. There's a warrior cemetery. The spirits of the dead warriors are there. It was hard enough for me to go to the Vietnam Wall in Washington. I can't do this. I can't do this." Well, the Greek people came and helped him, and our group helped him, and we gave him lots of support. So we did a sacred walk through the sanctuary, through the cemetery. We stopped in the cemetery in the meditation walk, and I invited John to choose one of the warriors' tombstones and just sit on it and pray. He did. The group surrounded him, praying for him, doing a Reiki and energy work for him. And while he's sitting there, from a really depressed, morose, sad looking face, suddenly his face lit up and he threw his arms up to the sky and he said, "The light just came on. The light just came on." "What do you mean, John?" we asked. He said, "I don't know, but something just penetrated my heart and the light switched on and I'm different now." "Okay, hold it, carry it, meditate with it." We walked through the rest of the ancient site. Then we came to the gate of the ancient city wall, which was the place where Pericles gave his famous funeral oration during the Peloponnesian Wars, and also the place where people left to walk to Eleusis for the Demeter Persephone mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries. So John stood on that place. First, I read excerpts from Pericles' speech, and then, "John, now it's time for you to give your speech and tell us your story and tell us everything that you've kept hidden about the war that's been locked up inside you." And he spoke for, I don't know, 20 minutes or a half hour and very emotionally gave his speech. And at the end of the speech, what he said was, "Listen, I'll never forget this. From now on and forevermore, I am no longer a traumatized Vietnam combat veteran. I
Wow.
am I am a spiritual warrior whose tragic service was in Vietnam. Not a
Wow.
disabled veteran, a spiritual warrior, wounded in honorable service. Not because the war was honorable, but because I was." So his identity changed and the light came on. Okay. Then, a few days later, we went to the island of Kos, which was the home island of Hippocrates, and a major Asclepian was on that island. And Hippocrates created the first medical school in the Western world that we know of on that island. So we visited the sanctuary and we did ritual work in the Asclepion. And then that night we set up a dream questing sanctuary in our hotel and John incubated. So he was incubating all night long. And during incubation, I always have supporters in the room with the person. There's a candle burning, and people are meditating and praying over the incubants. And we tend them all night long in case anything difficult comes up. They need help. Well, John kept waking up from a combat nightmare. He'd wake up and he'd be all upset and looking, his face was distorted. And the supporter would ask him, "Are you done? Do you need to stop?" And John kept saying, "No, no, no, I need to go back. I'm not done."
Wow.
Was with him from 3 a.m. till dawn during the nightmares, and the same thing happened, and he kept laying down again. When dawn rose and the first rays of light, talking about the light coming on inside and outside, the first rays of light from the eastern sun rising over Turkey, over the water, came into the room. He sprang up again with a beatific look on his face, and he said, "I'm done. It's over. I'm clean." I "Good morning, John. It's great to see you happy. What do you mean?" And he said, "I don't know, but I feel like it's done and I'm clean. It's the light's on and I'm free." This was
Oh,
about 15 years ago.
wow.
He hasn't had a combat nightmare since then. He works in the VA hospitals as a volunteer helping other vets, and he leads his own healing journeys to Vietnam. He went there for his own healing earlier, and we did that together, but he's healed so much that he guides and leads and teaches others and guides others back into the land of nightmares to transform that. And so he's become an extraordinary healer as well. And really, it was those 2 ritual days in Greece using the Asclepian dream incubation tradition and the ancient warrior tradition, and how the Greeks, how profoundly the Greeks honored it and knew it was a spiritual identity and gave support and guidance and healing in ways that we don't. So this is also how pilgrimage heals, and you and I both teach cultural immersion in cultures with other with a living spirituality and core ultimate values and different ways of life penetrate us deeply and change us inside. So when we have the phrase "I changed my mind" when we're thinking about something. No, no, no. We mean really, literally. We change our mind. We change the way, change the gnosis. We change the way news functions, and we
Yeah.
see and we feel differently, and we carry a different enlarged value system, and it's really beautiful. And so I've led, like, I think 25 pilgrimages to Greece, and every time veterans and civilians have these extraordinary breakthrough psycho-spiritual cultural experiences that change their lives.
I have full body truth chills when you were telling the story. That is so powerful and so beautiful. Whew. I just want to touch, I know that we are coming to an end, but we've also spoken before we hit record, and it feels like it's a beautiful story arc to close in a way, specifically with the story that you just shared with us. This powerful healing. That's why it's so important to really go back home and take this light with us and hold it within us and also share it with others. So what is, after all of these years that you have done this yourself and also guided others through it, what is essential parts of integrating these spiritual experiences into our day to day?
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, we touched on that before, and conversations like this help the integration. So I thank you for its usefulness to both of us. But it's really, really important to integrate the experience, and that means taking time and watching your dreams, monitoring your body and seeing how it feels differently, going slowly when you come back, not rushing back into everyday life. We have the phrase, the ancient phrase, "No pearls before swine." Be careful who you share your stories with, because
Mm.
lots of people are not gonna believe them and tell you it's not true, or it's superstition, or rationally tell you things like turtles on mountaintops couldn't happen when. So be really careful who you share it with. Do a lot of journaling, watch your dream life, watch for more synchronistic experiences, study whatever God powers, divine powers touch you, learn what in nature represents those and watch for them. Like, I really do have an uncanny number of turtle encounters since my turtle on mountaintop. Like, it doesn't make sense. There can't be so many, but they happen because there's an energetic or psycho-spiritual connection between us and the divine powers, and they are attracted to us. So in integration, it's learn the new sensitivities you have. Learn the new spiritual allies that you have that visited you. Pray to them, meditate with them, do guided imagery with them, watch for them in your dreams, watch for synchronistic events that are related to them. Talk to really sensitive people who are also on spiritual journeys and have delicious conversations like you and I are having today to help digest and integrate and learn the life guidance that you've been given. It's really not, it's great to have the original experience, but it's not enough. We also have to do the preparation before the experience and the integration time afterwards. And after you travel, don't go to work when you get back. Don't go to work when that's don't.
Yes, I agree. And I want to add one thing because what I felt very helpful, and I'm sure that you are attesting to that as well. Like any local books or poetry, or also just like I want to invite the audience to explore your books and the book that you've written about Passage to Poros, which is such an amazing, powerful exploration of that Greek island, but also in general, I want to say about the ancient healing practices and the art of pilgrimage that was present at the time and that we can still learn from. So we're going to put the link in the show notes. Check that out, everybody. And Ed, thank you so much. I just want to invite you for a final piece of wisdom to the audience.
Trust your dreams, trust your visions, watch for your synchronistic experiences. Don't let yourself be brainwashed by the merely conventional because it eliminates spirituality, but rather crack open its boundaries the way Turtle cracked me open and realize there is an invisible world. It wants to communicate with us, and it does. And open yourself up and watch for the connections and the communications, and your life will be so much richer in the riches that really matter.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Socrates had a beautiful prayer. I won't recite the whole thing, but one of the lines was, "May I consider only the wise to be wealthy." So
Yes,
embrace your spiritual wisdom and realize that's true wealth.
it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
When is the next journey and where can people find you?
Thank you. Well, my website is just my name, edwardtick.com. And my email address is also my name. It's Dr. Ed Tick, DREDTICK at Gmail. And my next journey is next spring, next March, around equinox time. Talk about
Mhm.
the light coming back when we're in Greece. We
Yes.
often go when the light returns and when spring and Persephone comes back and we celebrate and experience the light coming back to Mother Earth.
Beautiful. We're going to link that in the show notes. And for everybody who resonated with this conversation, please leave us a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And definitely check out Ed's books. And also, if you are intrigued, the next journey that is coming ahead. And yeah, you may also find that this wisdom was valuable to dear friends, fellow travelers, or wisdom keepers. So please share that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks for tuning in today. As always, stay curious and seek out the extraordinary. I'll see you next time.